Okay, so I've noticed on YouTube lately, there's a lot of people who seem to be starting to keep a cross-stitch journal or a journal of their crafts or what they do. I've always done that. I'm just one of these people that likes to see, I like to look back on the process. I enjoy seeing how long it takes me to stitch a piece. I enjoy seeing like how many hours I've put in on something, or how many stitches were in it, or what fabric I stitched it on, or like my blankets and things like that, you know, like types of yarn that I used, or how long it took me to stitch it, or different things that I've stitched over the years. But between, you know, life and work and kids and all of that sort of stuff, I don't, you know, I'm a true believer in like the KISS rule, right? Keep it simple, stupid. That's what KISS stands for. I don't, you know, when I was into paper crafting, and I still am, I still scrapbook. But when I was really into it, and I wasn't, my stitchy bug had kind of dissipated a bit, and I was much more doing the paper crafting, I was like, you know, I had these big elaborate planners, and I was putting stickers and all this kind of stuff. But, you know, I had a planner for my cross stitching and my crafts and my scrapbooking and stuff, and then I had a planner for my work and school, kids' school stuff, like life type planner. And, you know, and then I had my journal because I like to journal sometimes. So I finally said, you know, forget all of this mess. Like, there's too much going on. And it became a chore. It became a chore for me to maintain it and for me to update it. And if something becomes a chore for me, it's like one more thing that's added to the list that I have to do, and I don't enjoy it any longer. So a few years ago, I made myself Midori. Midori is a traveler's notebook. I made this one out of leather. It's compact. You can fit multiple booklets in it because it's an elastic based system. Like, all of these things are all held in with an elastic. So you can take books out, you can put books in, you can change out planners, you can put planners in, you can put note paper in there, you can put all kinds of stuff in there. So I'm just going to do a quick little flip through of my journal, my craft journal, because everything is in here. My life planner's in here, my craft journal is in here, and my, you know, jotting notes book is in here, and all my other stuff. I update this is small enough. I mean, it's like, I'll show you in comparison to my cell phone. It's small enough that I can fit this in a large purse, or I can throw this in my work bag. It closes up with an elastic, right? My fountain pen is stuck on the end, and usually I have another little colored pen stuck in like that. But my craft journal is in here. So when I open it up, I just bought one of these little planners that gives you days of the week, and that's what I do. I just plan out my days. This is actually my my stitching book. I made this one myself. Okay, so this is my little stitching journal, and basically on the pages inside, I just printed these off. This is where I keep track of my piece that I'm doing, my project, what I stitched it on, what sorts of floss I'm using, fabric, and any additional notes. You know, like I stitched it 2/1, where I got the design from, the date started, the date finished. So I have all of that. And every page is like that. And then I have these little fold-out calendars. And basically, this is for my rotation. So I just added these in. So for example, this is January's calendar, their little fold-out calendar. So I still get to do a little bit of decorating, like the planner systems, but I don't, I don't feel the need to over decorate. And if I don't want to decorate, then I just fill out the calendar and it's no big deal. So this is January's. Week 1 of my rotation here, I did, I started, because this was the beginning of January, I started my Quiet Frost and my new Haid. Week 2 was my Monopoly, went to here. Week 3 was my Record Girls, went to here. Week 4 was my Haid, A Christmas Carol, went as far as here. And then I started Quiet Frost, which then goes on to my February page. At the bottom, focus for the month, I listed the dates of the week for each of my whips. Okay, that was going to be my rotation. As I did them, I ticked them off. My ongoing project for work, 12 Days of Christmas, which I worked on throughout January, so I ticked that off. And then if there's anything extra, for example, in January, the Haid Challenge, which was to stitch 1,000 stitches in 10 by 10 blocks diagonally, I completed that challenge, so I ticked it off. If I hadn't completed that challenge, then I would have left the tick mark off, and I would have then put it on the bottom of my list for February. So that just gives me week by week what's in my rotation, anything else that I want to work on, if there's anything specific, if something else gets thrown in there, like the Haid Challenge, I can mark that down. Any notes, I don't have my notes written for January yet, but I will do those probably this evening. Any notes about what I changed in a pattern, or number of stitches I stitched in the month, or other little quirky things that I want to try and remember, or I want to know about how my rotation went that month, I'll jot them on the back. I'll do bullet journaling on the back and just put my notes on the back of that sheet. And those stay in my calendar. So I have January, February, and March rotations done at the moment. And then I will do another few months. I just print those. This is a free calendar I got off the internet. I just print them, black and white, trim the edges, put a bit of washi tape on, and fill out my rotation. It's easy peasy, lemon squeezy. So that is my stitching journal, and this pops right back in here. And then I just have a monthly planner like you would have any other month, and I just fill out paydays and weekdays and all that. But everything is in this one book, and it's all at my fingertips. So it's all very easy, and I can just grab it on the go when I need to. And this just slips right back in the elastic, like so. Ta-da! So yeah, very easy. There are some great tutorials on YouTube about how to make your own Midori. If you make your own, they're actually not called a Midori, they're called a faux dory. But you can look those up if you're interested in some sort of planning system like that versus the planning systems that you can buy. Gosh, I forget the name of the designer now. There was a really popular one out there a couple of years ago, and the planners were beautiful. Beautiful. But they were like spiral bound. They weren't customizable enough for me, and they weren't compact and portable enough for me. I wanted to be able to fit everything in the palm of my hand and take it with me because, you know I can put my calendars and stuff in my phone, but I'm a crafty paper kind of girl. I just, and this is just crafty enough that it gives me some satisfaction that way, but it doesn't take up a whole lot of my time. And it's easy to use, easy to maintain. So that's that. I wanted to do the rotation tag. So I'll do that and then I'm done. Okay, so this is the rotation tag, which is in Flosstube number 2 from Tea and Stitches. So I'm going to answer her tag. So question number 1, do you have a consistent rotation or does it change? Right now I do have a consistent rotation. I have 5 whips that I'm working through and they rotate and I'm loving that. Number 2, how many whips are in your rotation? 5. I just answered that question. I have 5 whips. They are all large full coverage pieces with the exception of my Monopoly board. How do you choose the pieces in your rotation? There's no real choosing. Those are the 5 whips I have ongoing at the moment. I do have a couple of smaller whips, but I leave those for work projects that I can work on during my lunch break. Right now I'm focusing on the 12 Days of Christmas for that. But once that one is done, I'm going to go back to focusing on my Edgar Allan Poe sampler for my work project. I have those 5 large whips. I need to get them done. I want to get them done. I don't want to be stitching on them for years and years and years. But I do have this sense that I want to get something accomplished with them each month. So that's why I decided to set up a rotation. And I don't have any other whips that I've started that I've thrown to the wayside, really. So that's how I decide. The whips that I have are the whips that are in the rotation. And I won't start another whip until I finish something, and then I'll start a new whip and add that into my rotation in its place. How does your rotation change? So I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I do an 8-day week. The reason I do an 8-day week is because of my work schedule. I work 4 days on, 4 days off. So what I do is my first day off is the start of my whip cycle, the start of my whip week. So that's day 1. So I will stitch for the 4 days that I'm off from work. That's 4 days of stitching time on that piece. Then I go back to work. So I do 2 12-hour days and I'll stitch a little bit in the evening when I get home. And then I do 2 12-hour night shifts. So in the mornings after I sleep and I wake up in the afternoon before I go to work, I might get an hour or so of stitching in. So that's my 2 night shifts. So that's my 8 days. And then when I'm done working and I'm done sleeping, I'm back to day 1. So then I switch my piece. So that's why I have an 8-day week. It works well with my work schedule. Question number, I lost the questions, come back. Question number 5. When do you add or change pieces in your rotation? Again, I think I already answered that. I will add or I will change pieces as I finish something. I'll add something else in its place. How long have you been using rotation? I started the rotation a little bit, probably November, December. I was rotating my projects, and then by January, by December, my rotation was in full swing, and I added in 2 pieces for new starts for this year, for January. So my 3 whips that I had been working on became 5. And I'm done. That's as much as I'm doing. I'll work on those until something gets finished. How often do you review or reassess your rotation? I haven't. It's been working for me and I enjoy it, so I haven't reviewed or reassessed it at this point. Maybe I will later on, but at the moment I haven't. Number 8, how has having a rotation changed your stitching? It's changed my stitching in the fact that it keeps me excited about every piece. Just when I'm getting to the point where, oh my gosh, I've been working on this for 8 days and this section of the chart is becoming monotonous. I'm looking at the same color blue for the last 7 days. It's time for me to change. And I go to something different. And all of my whips, even though they're all full coverage pieces, they're all quite different. My haid, my one haid I'm doing is 1/1 on 25 count. My other haid I'm doing 2/1 on 18 count. My record girls I'm doing 2/1. My quiet frost, I attempted to do that intense stitch. I hated it. I went back to full crosses. My Monopoly board is just an easy, simple, fun little stitch to do. So, because my pieces, 4 of my 5 pieces are all full coverage pieces, it's nice to get a break from each one every week and move on to something different. Because the colors in them are different, the style of them is different, the fabric I'm working with is different, the floss I'm working with is all DMC, but some of them I'm using 1 strand, some of them I'm using 2 strands, some of them I'm using waist knots, some I'm using loop method and weaving in the ends at the end. So yeah, so every week, that's how it's changed my stitching. It just keeps me so motivated and keeps me excited about my stitching because I change it up every week. Number 9, what would you change about your stitching? What would I change about my stitching? I don't know. I don't think I'd change a whole lot. I love my stitching. I love the process. I love, I'm loving the rotation. I think if I could change anything, right now it would be, I probably wouldn't have had 4 whips that were full coverage. Excuse me. I'm on vacation. I'm allowed to yawn. Yeah, if I could change anything, it would be probably not to have 4 full coverage pieces. I would have had another one of those pieces as a simpler piece like my Monopoly board. Which isn't simple, but the stitching is different. It's not full coverage, it's more cross-country stitching, it's more small, like little motifs. I would have done something like that. Like I would have had one of my whips as my Edgar Allan Poe sampler, for example, or something of that nature, one of my Prairie Schooler pieces, or something like that, a Lizzie Kate piece, something that would be easier to stitch, or little less, you know, big. That's the only thing I would change. But the thing is that I have these 4 pieces, and they're all pieces that I love, and they're all pieces I wanted to stitch. And now that I have them started, I feel the need to work on them and to want to work on them, and I'm enjoying every single one of them. So if I had to change anything at all, that would be the one thing I'd change. I would have waited to start one of those large pieces until I had something else finished, or I would have had another smaller piece thrown in there. That's really the only thing. So that's it for the rotation tag. I'll try and put a link down below to her tag so that you can complete it too. And so yeah, that's my entire update. This is a long video. I don't even know if I can upload this from my iPad. I'll have to figure this out because I haven't done a video this long, I don't think. Happy stitching. Have a good one. Have a good week, and I will talk to you again next month.